Once Upon a Time in the West by Sergio Leone is a film of clash and struggle. There are two main storylines of this movie, one of revenge and one of progress. At the forefront of this film is the remnants of the Wild West, a land of dreams and adventure filled with traditional values, butted up against the new age of society with technology, money, and an unstoppable desire to spread. The main driver of the story is the railroad, which represents Eastern society arriving to tame and conquer the West. Its counterpart are characters like Cheyenne, who truly embody the traditional and untamed West. The opening of Once Upon a Time in the West is one of the most unique and impactful openings in all of cinema. It consists of three bandits arriving at a desolate train station and waiting until a train pulls in. After a brief stop, it pulls off again, in which a duel commences between the bandits and a newly arrived character. It lasts 15 minutes and in total has about 7 very short lines of dialogue. This is a very purposeful decision by Leone, as instead he puts extreme emphasis on the sound. Throughout this scene, you hear water droplets, the clicking of a telegram, the whining of an old windmill, the buzzing of a fly, and much more. These noises continue for some time, each noise distinct and outstanding against the desolate and absent landscape. The combination of these noises, the bandits, and the landscape portray what the Old West truly is, a barren and isolated land that harbors extreme tension and untameness. This is all brutally interrupted by the screeching of an incoming train. Its engine is constant and unrestful, unlike the sounds previously heard. As it pulls into the station and stops, another sound is unveiled. As it idles, it makes thumping sounds, like a heartbeat that deafens everything else. This noise depicts the train as a beast that is alive and moving, ready to take on what lies ahead in the West. The hard contrast between the first and second part of the scene sets up the clash between old and new that is going to be seen in this movie. The East, with its industrialization, technology, and money, versus the West and its unpredictable and savage nature. Throughout the history of the U.S., the concept of the American dream has been present, and that is also reflected in this film. The West was a place of dreams and opportunity. With so much open land and limited jurisdiction, many people sought to travel there to make their dreams come true. The most obvious embodiment of that in this film is Brett McBain, who bought a large plot of land in hopes to build a town there and get rich when the railroad eventually passes through it. Although that motive is unknown until later in the film, it is abruptly ended when Frank kills McBain's whole family. Sergio Leone conveys that there is a new era upon the West, and that the American dream is dead. The tradition and framework that built the West is now doomed to be destroyed by the values that the railroad will bring in. Sergio Leone includes many pan shots of the landscape of the West, and in the context of the entire film, they resonate as one last look at the Old West. The film has a tone that change is coming, and that what is here now is soon to be changed and gone. So the many pan shots act as a mourning of what is to be lost. For example, when Joe McBain is traveling to Sweetwater, there are pans of the desert landscape. During the final duel, the camera circles, showing off the surroundings. Again, during the McBain massacre, there is a shot of Mr. McBain looking around at the landscape before him. Although there are more of these shots take place in very different contexts, but they are all meant to mourn what the West will leave behind once it concedes to the new age. The scenes between Frank and Morton display to the fullest that change is coming to the Wild West. Mr. Morton is a railroad tycoon who wants his railroad to reach the Pacific Ocean to boost his legacy, and he will carry it out by any means possible. With exceptions of 1 or 2 shots, he is only ever seen inside of his train car, which is cooped up with fancy things that otherwise would not belong in the West. As seen here, there are golden lamps, fancy window shades, fine wooden furniture, etc. The inside of the train car acts as a piece of the East, almost foreshadowing what the West is going to be turned into. Along with the look of the car, the conversations between Frank and Morton are very revealing of what is to come of the West. It is implied that Frank is a legend of the West, and that he acts as a traditional cowboy would. After being around Morton for so long, Frank's character begins to change, and his ideas and values start to shift. He tells Morton he wants to become his own businessman. Here, Frank is the Old West, conforming to the newly introduced values. The old way to get things done was through guns, but the new way is through money. For the rest of the film, Frank explores this concept, deciding whether he is better off keeping his old ways of doing things, or if he should adopt these new set of principles. This is carried out even further later in the film, when Morton is in the train car with Frank's men. Morton asks to play a card game with them, and then when he goes to deal, he deals out $500 to each man. In a later scene, those same men try to ambush and kill Frank, their former leader. This scene just displays how things get done in the new era. Although Frank's men may have been loyal, once somebody could pay more than he could, they swapped sides very quick. As shown from the very beginning of the movie, the train is constantly moving deeper into the West. It represents Eastern civilization and its unstoppable desire to expand to uncivilized lands. Even at the very end of the film, one of the last shots seen is the train coming into Sweetwater for the first time. The first ever shot of Sweetwater we get, it is as a single house with absolutely nothing around it. Just a patch of undesirable desert, and throughout the film many characters question and make fun of Brett McBain for buying this plot of land. However, by the end of this film, there are hundreds of people, new buildings being popped up, and a railroad being built. The progression of Sweetwater and the train from the beginning to the end of the movie is the culmination of what is going on in the West. The railroad's presence and what it brings is what is going to transform the West, just like it did to Sweetwater by the end of the film. By the end, there are no more true symbols of the Old West. The three main characters who represented the West were Frank, Harmonica, and Cheyenne. Frank failed to adapt to the new ways to control people. Harmonica chose to ride off away from Sweetwater, and Cheyenne died fighting what the West was becoming. Leone ended these characters' arcs this way to officially declare the death of the Old West. The departure of these three characters line up almost perfectly with the train's first arrival in Sweetwater, closing the book on the traditional Wild West. Sergio Leone's Once Upon a Time in the West is not a typical Western about cowboys and adventure. Rather, it's about the death of this era and the clash between new and old. The struggles of power throughout the movie, along with the character arcs and symbols, display the foregone era being taken over by a more new and advanced one.